Yearly since 1979, we members of the Men's Titanic Society have assembled at the Titanic Memorial to raise our glasses in toast to those brave men. Tonight marks the 40th anniversary of our gathering, but the story of that great ship and those brave men began at the turn of the last century, more than 100 years ago. As we sit here tonight, at this very moment, exactly 107 years ago, 4 days out of Southampton and 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland in the chill North Atlantic, most of Titanic's first-class passengers had also just finished dinner, virtually the same menu we have just enjoyed. Many on board were still toasting this first venture of the White Star Line's crown jewel, unaware that within the next 3 hours, their lives would be changed forever. To bring those moments back from history and give them life for us, I share with you once more a most moving account of the events of that horrific night, compiled from diaries and interviews of the survivors. April 14, 1912, a Sunday evening.
So it made you think more about those men. Those men being the ones that gave their places in the lifeboats.
It's an incredible story, and it has a freshness to it every year. Even though it's the same reading, but we hear the story that we're familiar with, and it sort of reaffirms our belief in the seriousness and solemnity of what we do.
It's part of my life. I mean, I look forward to it every year. I look forward to seeing those guys each year. They're all close friends, some of them extremely close friends. I don't know, it's very hard to explain. I get very emotional when I'm down there and I'm listening to the saga of the Titanic and being there with all those friends. And I don't know, I don't know if I can put my finger on the emotions that I feel.
It had been just 4.5 days since the Titanic had left Southampton, carrying 2,223 men, women, and children. Of the 531 women and children, almost 400 were saved. Of the 1,692 men, nearly 1,400 perished, many giving up their places in the too few lifeboats so that others could escape what these men knew would be certain death. Tonight, as we raise our glasses to those brave men, let us remember what they faced and what they gave in those last cold hours of the unsinkable Titanic.
To those brave men.
Hear, hear.
A band of brothers, all put together for honoring those brave men, and all of us have a common bond, and most of us are in the media in some way, in television or radio, or mostly behind the camera people.
After the Titanic collided.
The Men's Titanic Society is the story of a memorial lost and found again. The Titanic Memorial, where the members raise their glasses every year to honor the brave men of the Titanic, was dedicated in 1931. Its original location was on Rock Creek Parkway along the Potomac, but it was moved to make way for construction of the Watergate in 1966. The memorial was in storage for 2 years before its relocation to 4th and P Street Southwest on the Washington Channel waterfront next to Fort McNair. It was hidden and largely forgotten until a book by Bryson Rash and a local TV story pulled it back into view.
Jim mentioned that he had found this memorial as part of some research he was doing for a television feature for WRC TV called Washington Odyssey.
And it was a documentary about little-known places in Washington that are great to see if you can find them.
But all of a sudden it was there, with no fanfare, and nobody knew what it was. And you can't see it from the road. It's just hidden. I think that grabbed my attention more than anything else. They had been forgotten in a way, and they should be resurrected.
And I said something about, or one of us said something about, those brave men should be remembered. So why don't we go out there tomorrow and remember those brave men?
So on the following Sunday, which happened to be Easter Sunday, 1979, four of us, Jim, Max Schindler, Danny O'Brien, me, went down there with a spray of flowers.
What's a nice way to put it? We stole the flowers out of WRC's garden. We cut flowers from their garden and we brought them down there.
And we laid down the spray of flowers, drank a toast to those brave men, went home, and felt pretty good about it.
At the beginning, it was very, very simple. We had no dinner planned. We had nothing at all, just by going out there. Just a bunch of guys getting out there the best they could.
Then we started going to lunch with tuxedos on, which got very funny in some of the restaurants like Hogate's, because a woman came up to me in Hogate's and said she wanted a table for four, and I grabbed some menus and I said, "Right this way, ma'am."
The idea of going down there and honoring the brave men who perished on the Titanic had a little bit of whimsy attached to it. Now that was year one, and maybe even carried over into year 2 or 3. But I would say by the end of the third year, I had a level of seriousness about the reason that we were there at the memorial, and the fact that, these men really were above and beyond.
The main thing about what we do is that it's not a lark, and some people think it is, and they sort of laugh or snicker when they hear about the Men's Titanic Society and what we do. And we can understand that, but they don't know the true feelings that I think each of us has in going out there and saying the toasts that we do.
We really gather here to honor a bunch of men who didn't dream up the idea of women and children first, but certainly did their part to make it ring down through the ages. To those brave men.
Here, here, here.
So many men made the decision that was to cost them their life, that they preferred their honor to give up their place and sanctuary of a life-saving boat to those who were in more need than they, the women and children of the Titanic.
I would ask that we put ourselves in their place, standing on the deck looking into those icy waters. Would we say, "Why me?" Or like them, would we say, "Why not me?" To those brave men.
Yeah. Perhaps not one among us this evening knows exactly what we would have done if we had that choice to make, the same as the dilemma that faced the men that night. We know what they did, although we're not sure yet what we would have done. We honor them, those brave men. Hear, hear.
After 107 years, let us not forget their example of courage, decency, civility, and sacrifice. To those brave men.
Here, here.
We've been doing this for 40 years.
and I marvel through the years at the courage those brave men had. I often wonder, would I have had that courage? I like to think so, but I'm not really sure.
The time has come for us to say goodbye. As silent partners, the monument and the wreath will face the coming elements together. But only the granite will sustain the ravages of the coming years. But in the spring, the Men's Titanic Society shall return to reunite flower and stone and to reaffirm that memories endure, for we shall never forget those brave men.